So are you a first-time home buyer, or maybe you're somebody that wants to take advantage of some grant money for a down payment, or maybe you have a family member, a friend, or maybe somebody that you know close that's thinking about buying a house and maybe might not have the money for a down payment, or maybe you're an investor and you'd like to learn more about what the government is offering as far as funds to help improve your properties to help others. Super excited today to have Miss Belle LeBlanc with us today. She's actually the Human Services Manager at the Community Development Department at Planning and Zoning, and she works with the Lafayette Consolidated Government. That's a mouthful. So what does she actually do? She works with HUD to actually distribute funds in different programs to bridge gaps for first-time home buyers or even investors or people who need money to actually fix up their property that otherwise would not be able to do it. So today we're going to unpack so many different programs, not just first-time home buyers, but also people who own properties and investors. Belle, thank you so much for joining us. For most people who don't know what you do, just dive into it. Tell me, what is your job?
Okay, so I'm the Human Services Manager for Lafayette Consolidated Government. We work out of the Taylor Center, which is behind the fire department on Mud, kind of nestled between the municipal golf course and that fire station. So we have a lovely sort of secluded area,
yes.
trees.
Yeah, it's beautiful back there. I mean, you've got mature landscaping and
yes, windows.
See, I thought you were at the Clifton Chenier Center.
No,
yeah.
I'm lucky.
Okay,
we have our own little sort of commune over there.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
who's all over there?
So we, all of the human services are located at that office. We have 3 certified housing counselors, myself included. We do group educational classes for homeownership training, financial literacy, and home maintenance. We have a housing rehabilitation program. So we have a housing rehab specialist. We have a first-time home buyer loan program. And we also have the Ticket to Work program where our EN specialist helps people who are receiving Social Security disability benefits.
Okay.
But they're interested in going back to work. And if they work with our Ticket to Work coordinator, they have sort of like a safety net where they can test out to see if they're really ready to go back to full-time work without losing their benefits or their medical assistance. So she helps them with resumes and job searches and work with employers if they need any kind of accessibility or, accommodations. So you're the manager for the entire division there, but part of that is, like you said, the first-time home buyer program and the rehabilitation program. So tell us more about that. What is the first-time home buyer program? Let's start there because there's a lot to unpack here because you have grants, you got first-time home buyer programs, you even have under the Louisiana Housing Commission, Louisiana Housing Corporation, you even there's even other programs for even investors to work with you guys. Yes. So through our department, the first-time home buyer loan program is targeted to low or moderate income persons who are purchasing a home. That means that they can't make over 80% of the area median income as determined by HUD. And those limits come out annually. So 80%
of the median income in that area, and each area is different.
Yes.
Depending on...
Correct. HUD calculates those every year for each municipality. So Lafayette Parish has one, and then St. Martin Parish has a different one. So you can go on the website and find for each, municipality or parish that you're in.
Okay.
So that's sort of...
And I've seen that. That's all on your brochures, too.
It is.
So you know exactly what the income limits are for the first-time home buyer program.
Correct.
Yeah.
So what that helps is people who... We try to sort of close the affordability gap for those persons who may not have enough for their down payment or they need a little help with their closing costs. And we don't want them to deplete all of their emergency savings so that if they do purchase a home and an issue comes up, we want them to have a little bit of cushion.
Sure.
So the first-time homebuyer loan program is a 2% loan over a 15-year period that they are eligible for. We recommend people to get approved with a mortgage lender prior and to have the home picked out that they're looking to purchase before they come to us.
Right. Well, for the first-time home buyer application.
Correct.
But y'all do have the courses that, in order to get to be approved for that first-time home buyer program, you have to go through some courses and some, different classes in order to be approved. And that is for everybody.
Yes.
Right?
So the home ownership training course that we have is a 2-night class. It's free, open to the public.
Completely free.
Completely free. And it's 2 4-hour evenings. We have professionals from the real estate spectrum of every, capacity.
Realtors, lenders,
lenders, title attorneys, home inspectors.
Yes.
And they come and they present their specific piece of the home ownership path.
Right.
So that people are educated, they're not taken advantage of, they know how to advocate for themselves and make good decisions. They can ask questions to the professionals in this field and have like one-on-one interaction with them. Because we are a HUD certified housing counseling agency, they can take that homeownership training and it qualifies them for other federally backed loans like FHA, where they would have to take a homeownership training class. Because we're HUD certified, they're able to take that certificate at the end of the class and present that.
Sure. So they could go to your class and that would certify them for, even if they don't use your program, they could still use that. But it's also just good information. I mean, a lot of people don't know what they don't know.
Right.
They don't even know what questions to ask.
Yes.
I remember way back, I taught a few of those classes back in the early 2000s when I first got started. And it was interesting because, being in the field that we're in, we assume that people know, and it's just, it gives them a good, safe place to ask questions that they may not. But then on top of that, so you go through these classes, which y'all hold each month, right?
Yes.
So it's just 2 nights, 2 hours each.
4 hours each.
4 hours each.
Yes.
So it's 8 hours?
Yes.
Okay, I thought it was 4.
It's 2 nights, 4 hours each night.
Okay.
Yes, so it's a total of 8 hours of education about the home purchasing process.
And then once you go through those classes, you guys even offer counseling services, right? So
we have one-on-one counseling with a HUD certified housing counselor. And so that helps people to identify what their goals are. If it's a home purchase, we help them pull their credit report, and then we go through their credit report with them, look at their bills, their income expenses, give them an idea of what type of home they would qualify for with their income, or with their credit scores not at a level that a lender would work with them. We help them to increase, paying off debt, show them how to raise that credit score and what's going to make the most impact.
I'm sure you see all kinds of stuff. Like some people have stuff that's not even supposed to be on there.
Yeah. We have one woman, I think she came in yesterday or day before, and I think she has several accounts. Her name is misspelled. And it's not even her. You know what I mean?
So they have other people's bad credit on our credits?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen all of that too. And it's hard to even read one of those sometimes. And so having a counselor be able to sit down with you for free, because you can hire a credit repair company, but that could cost $300-400 each month for 6 months. Whereas coming through your office, we can get start to be able to read it, know where you're at, and then how to start to clean it up so that when you are ready to buy, you're
in a better position. They just kind of help support people to clarify their own goals and get the information and education so they can take control of their life, create some financial independence, create generational wealth. That's what we're looking at doing. Is if you've never had anyone in your family who went through the home purchase process or who owned a home, you don't know what escrow is. You have no reason to know what escrow is. So, it's just all those little multifaceted pieces that we sit down and help people, with all that information in a very relaxed
And you brought up generational wealth and become, using the tool of home ownership for wealth building is huge. I actually, the government just released a couple of days ago the appreciation levels. They release this every year, usually around February, and and for each area. And in Lafayette, the appreciation level, if you bought a house in 2002,
Right.
20 years ago, your property has appreciated over 100%. So the interesting part about the wealth building part, which I think people just don't get, like, that sounds great. Okay, yeah, if I bought a $100,000 house in 2002, now it's worth $200,000.
Right.
But what they don't understand is, to buy that $100,000 house, it only took you $5,000.
Right.
So you made $100,000 with just a $5,000 investment.
Right.
So I mean, I think when you start to think about that, that's that is exponentially larger than anything you could do with that $5,000. We were talking about this earlier. Like, you could go and spend your money on shoes and clothes or a car or whatever, but if your goal is to create wealth and build a life and have your money work for you, there's really absolutely no better place to put it than in home ownership. And it also creates a sense of pride,
right?
In your
create communities.
That's right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if everyone's just renting and they're coming in and out, you aren't able in that same sense to create that sense of community where you've had the same neighbors for 20 years.
Yeah.
Your kids knew their kids and they grew up, and now they're coming back with the grandbabies, and you know what I mean? All those things that contribute to us feeling that we're at home and wanting to, be a part of something bigger than ourselves.
Right.
And I think homeownership's part of that, but again, homeownership is also a responsibility. It isn't for everyone. So we also have home maintenance classes for free that help people learn how to take care of those little things if they've never owned a home.
Is that part of the course, the home?
That's a separate
course. A separate course.
Yes.
You have the 8-hour course on, the process of home ownership. Then you have the maintenance course. Like, okay, now that if you're thinking about buying a home, it's important to know what you're going to have to do to that home and what the maintenance is to maintain and protect that investment over time.
Correct. And our housing rehab specialist teaches that class.
That's awesome.
So he comes from like, I'm in the houses, I build the houses, I fix the houses, I can tell you what you need to know.
Right.
So we're very lucky to have that wealth of knowledge.
It's the same thing over and over again for every house. You have a certain amount of systems, and they're going to fail if you don't take care of them. And when they do fail, if you know how to fix them or address the issue before it becomes a major issue.
Correct.
Right.
And what you really need to ignore.
How many people have you seen like, oh, well, yeah, the last hurricane, my shingles fell off, but, I didn't really,
think about it.
And now, it went from a $200 repair to a $15,000 repair, right? We see that all the time.
Yes. And then we also have our financial literacy course, and it's a separate course as well. That's a 2-hour class that's free. And again, that's talking about how to make your money work for you. It touches on the issues of credit. All those different things, how sometimes people have like emotional issues with money. And we try to help them identify, like, what is your emotion?
What do you mean by that?
So if maybe you heard your parents talk about credit cards and they're bad, and maybe they went through a bankruptcy because they didn't manage their credit cards debt. As a child, you grow up thinking credit cards are evil. Mm-hmm. They're bad. You just have bad feelings associated with credit cards because of what your family went through.
Sure.
Credit cards are not bad. It's what you do with them. So if you understand how they work and you understand how to manage that credit card is not good or bad. It's your responsibility to be educated and know how to manage it. So, we talk about those things. Some people's families don't talk about money. It's taboo. It's rude. You don't bring it up and you don't talk about it. So how are they going to learn about investing? How are they going to, if people say don't trust the bank, they don't create a relationship with the bank. They don't get a checking account. They don't have a relationship with a banker. So when they need to get a loan, if they're having to use these high interest rates, sort of corner, loan stores that are charging them because they don't have a relationship with a bank that can help them through maybe some rough times.
Right.
So, and that's what I just mean is like there's some emotional issues around money that we can talk
So
about.
identifying it, first of all, like, what's going on here? Why do you have that feeling? And then identify it, and then trying to navigate around it so that they can use the system as a tool to achieve their goals.
Correct.
And so I think that's important. And I think that's one of the number one things most people believe, like, well, I make too much money to apply for the first-time home buyer program. However, that might be the case, but it's still really good to go to these courses, go through the process,
right?
Have that environment where you can feel free to ask anything you want, especially if you're a first-time home buyer, and then you can have a counselor actually look at your credit score with you, and come up with a plan to actually to execute on purchasing a house. And you see all the time that, a lot of people, at least when we are talking to people and home buyers, we have people that are looking at houses all the time or online, right? And then, when we reach out to them, they haven't even really thought about actually, the possibility of owning their house, because I told you earlier, well, they think they need 20% down. They got to save 20% of $200,000. That's $40,000 to buy a house, and that's just not the case.
Right.
And so it's interesting, how it's a shame that, we don't teach this in school.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like we should be teaching this in school with taxes and everything else. Like, but this is something that nobody talks about.
Right.
And having the ability to have this resource in Lafayette is amazing. And I just wish, and I hope that a lot of people can learn more about this and actually take advantage of it. And if it's not for you, maybe it's your child or your nephew or your niece or somebody that's has a potential and they just don't think it's even possible. Well, it starts with anybody before they're even ready to buy a house. They could come to these classes.
Right. I mean, if you don't even have the idea that it's a possibility, how can you work towards a goal until you put the possibility of the idea?
And you have on your website, and we have brochures here, the days and times of all of the different classes.
Yes.
And so you register by calling the number for the housing counseling services. It's 337-291-5450, right?
Correct.
And you just register to go to be at the class because you feed them. You need to know it's coming.
Yes, we do. And so, you just register for the next available class or whatever fits your schedule. And then someone will call a couple days ahead just to confirm, just to make sure that you're still coming to the class.
Because it's like in this case, it's this year, it's Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 5 to 9.
Yes.
And so you guys provide some food and snacks so that you can make it to 9 p.m.
Yes, and with everyone still happy and intact. Right. I don't do well not eating for that long at a time, so we try to accommodate people,
So it's really for anyone,
yes,
that has any questions whatsoever and just wants to gain some knowledge about the home ownership process, or even the maintenance part of it.
Correct. Financial literacy. 20-year-old who's just kind of starting to get a real job and putting some money aside. It's a perfect time just to come and dip your toe in the water.
And what's really cool is you go to this class and then you can find out, hey, what other tools can I use or that are offered to actually reduce the amount of money out of your pocket to purchase a house? Because you have the first-time home buyer program.
Correct.
Which, you do have these income limits.
Yes.
Depending on how many dependents you have, right?
Yes.
It increases the more dependents that you do have.
Correct. And again, HUD creates those limits for us and they're changed annually. But if you're a person who's 22 or 23 years old, you can build some wealth for yourself because your income's not high at this point in your life. You can buy a very small starter home and live in it for the next 15 years. When you're in a different phase in your life, you've built a lot of assets for yourself.
And what's the amount What's the maximum amount?
So the first-time home buyer for closing costs or down payment for the loan that's 2% is $11,000.
And that can be used for down payment and closing costs. Now, if they're with a savvy realtor and we can negotiate, a lot of times we can negotiate the closing costs paid by the seller. So that means you can literally use $11,000 towards your down payment.
So principal reduction.
Right. So principal reduction. And so not only the down payment, you could also use it for principal reduction. Yeah. So like if your down payment is, let's say $8,000 and your closing costs are $5,000, you get the seller to pay $5,000, use $8,000 in down payment, and then you can use the remainder $3,000 if you're approved to get $3,000 more off the. Right. I mean, that's real money. Now, let's talk about that money because there's other programs too I want to get to. Yes. But in the first-time home buyer program, it's a 2% loan. So what is that per month?
It's $70.70
so
on.
If they get the $11,000, the total 11, it's about $80 a month that you're going to pay, and it's over 15 years. Yes. And is it forgivable? Or is it not forgivable? And it can be both, right?
Right. Well, the first-time home buyer, depending, we have some low and moderate income apartment complexes that we funded as loan programs. And when those complexes pay back on their loan, it comes back to us as some program interest. And when we accrue enough of that, we're able to make a few grants a year that are forgivable over that 15-year period, and those are usually up to $15,000.
So those are in addition to the
that's
first.
Separate.
So
it's the same program, but one, until we have that program income, we can't offer any of the home forgivables.
Sure. Well, which I think that brings me to before I get there. Listen. So the first-time home buyer program, the 11 up to $11,000, it's $80 a month, and you just pay that for 15 years, unless you sell the property or you rent out the property. At that point, you got to pay it's like a balloon payment. You got to pay the remainder back at that time.
Correct.
And then the forgivable part of the program is a different.
It's just a different pot of money that we're able to use. When we get that
through the same program,
but it's just a different pot of money that we can access occasionally. And so I hate to talk about it too much because I don't want to have 50 people call and we don't have any funding. Well, we can only do 5 grants,
I think it's interesting because that goes to my next question is where does the money come from? And so the first time home buyer program, which you guys typically always have the funding from HUD, that's allocated from the government, it allocates each different.
Yeah, so the first-time home buyer, what we did with that is that when our other first-time home buyers pay their loans back, it goes into a revolving loan fund. So they're reinvesting back into our pot of money that we're able to then reinvest back into.
So the HUD gives y'all the money.
Initially,
and then y'all lend it out to whether it's for your first-time home buyer program, and you're getting that $80 back a month, and then somebody sells it, you get the whole lump sum. So you're making that 2% on that money.
Yes.
And then any interest or any money earned from there goes into another pot that can be lent out and could be forgivable.
Right.
Because y'all want to use it all.
Investment. Yeah, we do. I mean, we want.
Y'all want to use it all and help as many people. It's not about making money for.
No, it's not. It's a revolving loan fund, and it goes back into the community to help other moderate income people become homeowners and bridge the gap so that it's affordable for them, and they get to be invested in their community and. Have those neighbors and have the relationships.
It improves the neighborhood. It improves everything because they now have pride in an investment.
Ownership, right? And then, it's hopefully something they can pass on to their children when that time comes, and their children have a foot up because now they have an asset to work from.
Now, before we move on to the next topics, let's go back to the first-time home buyer. You go through the course. In order to get the first-time home buyer funding, the loan for the down payment, you have to go through the courses, and you
have to. For that, you just have to do the homeownership training, which is the 2-night 4 hours. So you don't have to do all the others if you're just applying for the first-time home buyer.
But to apply, so you can start those trainings. Anyone is welcome to the trainings. It's completely free. But when you want to apply for the grant, or not for the grant, for the loan, at that point you should have a house picked out and you should already be pre-approved with the lender.
Correct.
Who's working with your realtor.
Yes.
And have the house picked out. Then you apply. So you have it under contract.
Yes.
And then, it's just part of your due diligence period and financing contingency of that contract.
Correct.
And then hopefully, you can either start the classes at that point or you've already done them, which I recommend.
Preferably the homeownership training, I would have that done ahead. If because what if our class is full? We can only fit 24 people at a time, and normally our homeownership trainings are full.
Yeah.
So it's best because the homeownership training certificate is good for a year.
Right.
So if you're on the house hunt, just come and take the class, get the certificate, and then
be prepared. So that when we go under contract, you can already you can go ahead and apply.
Correct.
And typically those applications are done with the lender.
We have an online application process now. We have a little button on our website, so you can. But the lender supplies us a lot of underwriting material because they have already verified and
And you should be working with a lender that knows about this.
Yes.
Some lenders are not aware of this.
Right.
If they're out of town lenders and they don't know anything about this program. That's why I think it's important to use a local lender wherever you are.
Yeah.
Because there's different cities handle this differently.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah. The program is not in every area. And of course, it's jurisdiction of Lafayette Consolidated Government. So it is our city and our unincorporated areas of the parish. If you're in the city limits of Scott, then you would not be eligible for this pot of funding. There's other funding possibly available through Louisiana Housing Corporation, but you would go directly. You would connect your lender with those opportunities on their website.
So if I'm buying a property in Scott, and I could still go to the classes.
Correct.
With
the homeownership
training.
Get the certificate.
But I would be applying for the loan through the Louisiana Housing Corporation.
Right. Or the lender would work with them.
The lender will work with them.
Depending on what's available at that time.
And your classes would satisfy that condition of the certificate that the first-time home buyer certificate that they
Yes, because we are HUD certified housing counseling agency.
So, so that the Louisiana Housing Corporation would allow, they also, if you didn't take the classes through the, in person at your office, then there are some virtual classes that are done by the Louisiana Housing Corporation. But as we talked earlier, your classes are way better because they're in person. And it's not just an online thing, and you have,
It's human contact, and, they can ask questions, it's feedback, it's other people in the class are asking questions you might not have thought of.
No doubt.
And sometimes tangential information is good information that you wouldn't think you needed to know, but once people start talking about it, it's like, oh, that's great. I'm so glad you asked that question. So those kind of things happen all the time. So people get a lot of other information and connections, and I think it's a better experience. But in some housing counseling, the homeownership trainings, they will charge for the online classes. So you might have to pay $75 or $50. Ours is free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the so is the Louisiana Housing Corporation, is it the same amount?
Theirs is their own,
completely separate,
completely different. And I think that their funding sources may change, the funding opportunities may change. I don't think it's a static thing. So it's good to kind of, if you're in the market, go see what's available on their website.
Yeah.
Because there's just no
It changes. Funding.
The funding, we had the floods of 2016. The federal government released funding to support communities during that time, and some of that was used for those first-time home buyer, subsidies, because of that. So,
and through the Louisiana Housing Corporation, there are grant programs which were forgivable.
Yeah.
Does somebody in Lafayette, the city of Lafayette, have the ability to do both?
I would probably say not to both, because it's
one or the other.
Yes. Because it may be the same funding source, you see, but they're addressing issues that we are only in our municipality. And so it may both come from HUD. So we can't kind of touch those funds. So you need to, kind of make sure of that.
Right. And then, well, speaking about that, the Louisiana Housing Corporation, you mentioned that they do get funding from the government, from HUD,
Yeah.
because of natural disasters and other situations like Ida and Laura. So depending on where you are, there could be additional money, different funding. It could even go up. I mean, you've told me before that it could go up to $15,000 or more, depending on how much money they have.
Yes, depending. And like I think the 2016 floods, that one was up to $60,000. So they were paying 20% and $5,000 for closing costs.
Wow.
And that was a grant, but that was for that 2016 flood and just those parishes that were affected by that. And of course, I don't work for them, so I'm not an expert on their opportunities, but it's worth it to investigate. Sure. And, if you're a mortgage professional, it's worth it for you to investigate so you can support people, real estate, professional as well. The more you know, the better you're able to offer people opportunities to increase their purchase power.
Well, and speaking about this again, a lot of people think this is just for people who can't afford anything or are in the lower income brackets, but that's just not the case. Actually, Louisiana Housing Corporation's coming March 17th to Lafayette.
Yes.
And at the Clifton Schneer Center.
Right.
Tell us about that and what that's going to be.
So again, I don't have the printout yet, so it's just tentative. But it's a program that's being funded by the federal government that came through the Office of Community Development at the state level. Louisiana Housing Corporation is handling that application process, and it's going to be funding available for investors or property owners who rent their homes to low and moderate income individuals and who commit to ongoing renting of their homes to low and moderate income individuals. But the funds are going to be able to be used to renovate or create rental housing that's affordable for,
Which is phenomenal. So and you had said there's like $60 million?
There's $60 million across the state.
Yeah.
So we have to compete.
Sure. Everybody's got to apply depending how much, what you're offering or matching. But if you're an investor and if you're if you own properties right now for like Section 8s or maybe lower income apartments, you definitely want to go to this,
it's going to be a presentation by Louisiana Housing Corporation and at the Clifton Schneer Auditorium.
March 17th, 10 to 1.
Yes.
And you could potentially apply to either rehab some of your properties that are deferred maintenance, and or if you're a developer, you could potentially apply to get money to build an apartment complex.
Right. Well, it has to be, I think, it's not a complex. They want smaller.
Like fourplexes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. So they don't, want big, 300. That's not their target.
Right.
To make, smaller changes.
Sure.
Have affordable housing, more neighborhood type of access.
But if you have, I know, for instance, in Ile-de-Con, they have basically lots in there that you can't even give away.
Right.
You could potentially put a fourplex there and make the numbers start to work because you're using some of the money from the Louisiana Housing Corporation.
We'd have to make sure, I think, it's not in a floodway.
Right.
So there's an environmental aspect to that HUD does not want to fund housing.
Sure.
Floodways for obvious reasons.
No doubt.
Yeah. Because you have to keep it back.
Today, nobody can build in a flood flood zone because the insurance costs would just make it prohibitive to sell it,
Yes. So that is a caveat.
So not only do y'all have that coming up March 17th, but you also have just through your office rehabilitation and demolition programs. Tell us about that. And those are grants that are forgivable.
They are forgivable grants. And again, this is targeted for low and moderate income persons who we prioritize the elderly, and we prioritize people with disabilities who maybe have not been able to keep up with the maintenance on their home. And they have some home repairs on a home that they own that they are just unable to make. And so our rehabilitation program can offer a $50,000 grant to help do a major rehab. We have to bring the home up to code. So if we go in and they think that they just need, this 2 things done, but really the electrical panel and it's not up to code, then we have to come in and bring all those things up to code.
So when you get to a house, you mentioned major. So major meaning that there's more than one thing.
Right.
That our system that needs to be addressed. So like they may call you for electrical panel, like a Federal Pacific electrical panel is burnt.
Right.
And it's going to cost, $3,000. And you get in.
Probably have to update all the wiring.
And then the wiring's knob and tube. You got to go in and replace everything.
Yes, we do. And we have 3 homes that we move our homeowners out of their home, and we allow them to live in the in these other units while we're rehabbing there.
Because when you go in for one thing and you find out, hey, we can't just leave this house with there's open junction boxes and stuff like that. So you basically have to rip everything out down to the studs, and then bring it back.
Yes.
Which, this is, really important. It's a very important resource for some people who their houses are just in disrepair and they just can't get to it.
They may have been in that home for 50 years and they're a vital part of the community in that neighborhood, and they're living on, $786 or, $900. There's not funding for them to go get a contractor for $15,000 to replace their electrical system. And, we don't want those homes to be in such disrepair that it brings the whole neighborhood down. We want to make investments to keep wonderful places to live in Lafayette, no matter what your income level is, So that's, and sometimes we do just accessibility issues, so we can help people with ramps. We can alter bathrooms sometimes. So maybe the person's in a wheelchair now and they can't really get in their bathroom. So we might have to move a bathroom to a small bedroom so that they can get in and they have, accessible showers or different things like that. So whatever the need is, we have single system repairs if maybe they just need some help with a roof. We also have a demolition program.
So ramps, handicap bathrooms, like maybe they need to take the tub out and put a shower that they can roll into.
Grab bars,
roof issues, anything like that, that's available too. Because actually, when I was living downtown, you probably know him, Tom Holiday. He lived next door to me, and he had somebody came and put a new ramp in for him. Would that have been your?
I'm not sure. We work with other agencies also who do the same. Catholic Charities has Rebuilding Together at Keaty, and so they apply for some of our funding also. So sometimes if we get to a client, they are able to, just depending.
I used to work with Rebuilding Together.
Okay.
It's a lot of fun, But those are the type of people, like we would go into the house and it literally is falling. There's holes in the floor. And they're almost bedridden and nobody can help them. So
yes.
I think it's critical that we're able to help these people somehow.
Right. And so I've been over the rehab program about 3 weeks now, I was saying. So we're just kind of trying to make some changes in efficiencies, and we have the online application process now that'll hopefully help us manage, and just looking at ways to break down the program so that we can serve as many people as possible. And what's been going on with the contractors, cost of labor, cost of supplies, like getting supplies, ordering.
That's important to note, because you were saying the rehabilitation program, you guys can give up to $50,000
as a grant,
as a grant, but that's really just almost supplies, because y'all pay on top of that the labor.
For carpentry and painting, basic. Like we have to get
HVAC, you got to pay for.
Sure, we have to get those licensed.
But so it's significant amount of money that's available. It's not just $50,000. It could be more. And then on top of that, if you need, you can't just leave it if it's finished. So you can even loan them another $20,000.
Another $20,000 as a tandem loan. That's a 0% interest.
Wow.
To make sure that we bring it up to code. And
And then the IDA, the Individual Development Account.
So that's a new partnership that we have with Southern University and their Social Research Center. And what that is, people come through our program with the goal of homeownership. And we help them work through their financial literacy, their planning, and make them commit to savings. So they create a savings account that's in conjunction with Southern. They have to commit to putting a minimum of $50 per month. They have to have at least one dependent to apply and qualify because it is a grant that's focused on.
So one dependent.
Yeah.
And if you have more, then there's more.
Their income levels are higher.
They
You have one, right? It's 200% of the federal poverty level is what they use because the grant's through DCFS actually.
Okay.
But what it is for every dollar they save, Southern will match them $4. So when they reach their goal of $1,000, Southern will get $4,000 for their account to gain their asset. So if their asset is that home ownership, they go to closing, Southern will write that check for $5,000.
Why is Southern doing this?
It's a grant through the Department of Child and Family Services, and they applied to be the administrator of the grant.
I see.
And because we're boots on the ground, we're already doing the work. We have a partnership with them.
Cool.
To be able to, we're working with the clients anyway. Yeah. So it's just an added benefit and resource for our clients. Now, the IDA program, they can also use funding to go to school or start a small business.
So that's a good distinction. So in this case, the IDA program, it's up to $4,000, and that could be used not just for home ownership, but it could also be used for starting a business or go back to school.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's,
yes.
For somebody who's considering that, they just don't see any pathway. There could be a pathway, and it starts with your office.
Right. Yes.
Because even some of the programs that, may not be something that you're controlling, you can guide them in what other options are out there.
Yes. We try to act as a resource, for housing, but not just housing. It's important for us to stay abreast of all the different kind of supports that are in the community. So usually at least once a month, we try to have a meet and greet with different organizations from our community that support our clients. So other partner organizations will come in and we just, we have coffee and donuts and we all share what we do. We find about new programs they have, resources that they can offer so that we make the relationships, face-to-face relationships. So when we have a client that has these specific needs, we know who to call. And when we call, they know who we are. So we are committed to continuing to strengthen all those relationships and, just stay ahead of the curve so that we are able to offer that to the community when people call in, because sometimes they call and they just don't know who else to call.
Sure.
And it's fine.
Well, the fact that they're calling is important. I think there's probably a huge population that's not calling.
Yeah.
That hopefully we can get the word out a little bit more to actually tap into some of these resources. Right. Because Mary Simon, we had a podcast with her recently, and she said some of the money we don't use.
Well, some of the money that we don't use, we then offer for nonprofits in our community who are supporting the same goals,
sure, like
Rebuilding Together. They apply for the pot of money to do the same types of supports for our community. It's a housing focus, for that low and moderate income population. So the money's still going back into the community, and that's the important part.
Well, I mean, it's phenomenal what you guys are doing. I mean, it must be really rewarding. And I mean, it's always, you got a lot of wins too. Like you got people that come in and you're able to work on something, progress them forward, and then actually see them in a new home or get their money or. Yeah.
It's for me personally anyway, I just feel I'm so honored that people allow me to be a part of their life story. You know what I mean? It's
I know. We have feeling like being part of their home ownership.
Yeah. So what an honor for people to trust us to be able to support them in that way. So I would do that if I met somebody in the grocery store checkout line. You know what I mean? But I get to go to work and they pay me for that. So it's kind of cool. I wake it.
What's give me one of your favorite stories?
Well, it's a sad story, but a happy story. And I mean, we had an older woman who was going through housing counseling and had been for several years to build up her savings and get her ratios right for purchasing a home. And she had found a small, like 2-bedroom house that she was looking at. And her son passed away, and she had to take custody of his 3 children. So she had to start over, becoming, a mom again in that way. And so her little 1 or 2-bedroom home now is going to turn into a 3-bedroom home. So, but they were able, because she had already started working on that path. Her credit was where it needed to be. So the focus just had to change to go to the 3-bedroom with a yard and a fence and room for the kids. That wasn't in her plan initially. But she closed on her home before Christmas, and
so nice. I mean,
yeah.
to be able to help somebody like that it's changed her life to help others, and paying it forward was really cool.
We also had a gentleman. I think he was in his early 60s and had never been a homeowner. And he was able to go through our program and credit counseling and do the whole thing. And he was able to purchase a home with his 90-year-old mother. They had never owned a home.
That's great.
And so she's in her 90s, he's in his 60s, and they're got their first home.
That's
like, how cool is that?
Really?
I mean, talk about never sort of pigeonholing yourself. Like, I'm this age, I can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Like, no, you're alive. Keep trucking.
Yeah.
Well,
and I hope that that's a very inspirational story, and hopefully somebody who may be younger, can take advantage of it now and not wait until they're 60.
Correct. Yes.
Because the amount of wealth they could have made over the 30 years before, that would have been phenomenal.
No.
So
I agree.
Knowing what what would you like to, and I asked you this question a little bit ago, what do we need to let people know? That's my phone.
Okay, I was like, did I do that?
What do people need to know about about this? What do you want to get out there? What's the biggest challenge or roadblock that we can try to help?
I just think all of our clients that come, it's word of mouth. They come because their friend came and said it was good and they should come, and that's how it happens. But I would like more people like yourself, real estate agents, mortgage lenders, professionals to know what we do, the resource that we offer, to be able to share that information at that level, because I think we would reach a lot more people.
Yeah.
And I'm also going to call out the title attorneys. I need some of y'all to come volunteer. I'm a home ownership.
Oh, you hear that? I'm talking to you guys. I know some of y'all.
I have our staple that come, but we like to share some of that responsibility with them.
No doubt.
But because they love talking to the title attorneys.
Why?
Because I feel just like attorneys seem so aloof to most of our clientele. So having them right in front of the class and they can ask whatever they want, it's just something that they're not used to having access to that professional in that way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And just to know, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
And it's complicated. It's if you don't know what title insurance is, and why do you need it?
Right. And then normally, so that whole process is just signing, right? So you never really get to have that conversation, to know what should you be looking out for? What is this protecting you from? What, that whole conversation that they have with them. So yeah, it's fun.
Well, Belle, I can't thank you enough. I'm very excited to have you here, and it's been just a wealth of knowledge. And I think what I'd like to get a point across to everybody is there's so much more than just the first-time homebuyer program.
Right.
There's education, there's grants, there's opportunities that constantly change with your face-to-face relationships with the Louisiana Housing Corporation and your co-parts. There's so much stuff to learn. So I would encourage anyone who knows anybody thinking about buying a house, who hasn't bought a house, or maybe you bought a house and you don't really know what that process really was because you fell into it. Maybe somebody gave you a house. I think it's critical to take advantage of something that's free, that can actually help you and improve you and put you in a position of strength and help start to build that generational wealth and do it in a smart way.
Right. Agree.
So, a couple of things, that if you want to sign up for these classes, how do they get a hold of you guys?
Just call 337-291-5450.
And do you have a website?
We're with Lafayette Consolidated Government.
Mhm.
It's not the easiest to navigate.
Yeah. So just call the number. Just call the number.
It will take you several clicks to get to our part on Lafayette.
We'll put the number in here.
Yeah,
and if
yeah.
you have any questions, you can always call any one of our team members here at Keaty Real Estate, and hopefully some of your lenders would know as well. Also, March 17th is a big day. If you own real estate, if you own properties that you're renting out that may have deferred maintenance that you're renting to through Section 8 program,
Right.
any other type of affordable housing project, be sure to go to that meeting. It's going to be at the Clifton Chenier Center, 10 to 1.
Yes.
On March 17th.
Yes, Friday. Yes.
Belle, thank you so much.
Thanks for
I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to be with us, and hopefully we can help with your mission.
Yes, I appreciate that. Get the word out.
Thank you.
Thank you.